Hey folks, this is Jesse Cope back with another episode of the American Soul Podcast. Hope y'all are doing well, wherever y'all are, whatever part of the day it is for y'all. We're going to take one of our little walks this afternoon. We're going to go through the pasture for a little while. I have two puppy dogs today, although they have found something immensely more entertaining than me, which may not be saying much, to go off and chase. Probably some poor deer. Got a pretty low cloud cover today. I think we're supposed to have a little front blow in soon. Clouds look low enough where you could almost reach up and touch them. Got a decent little wind blowing today too. I'm sure y'all can hear that along with all the birds in the background. So hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction. As always, for those of y'all that are giving me a little bit of your time today, I appreciate that. I'm grateful for it. Realize that I know how precious a commodity that is today. And since we seem to continue to be growing week after week, I try and make sure that I make good use of your time. And I'm getting some pretty good feedback from y'all, so I hope that y'all are getting something out of it. For those of y'all that continue to share the podcast and to help it grow, I'm incredibly humbled by that and grateful for it. So thank y'all so much. We're going to go back to a topic that we go to pretty frequently on this podcast. Excuse the cough. Never fails. It doesn't. That's not true. It doesn't always happen, but I'm gaining a appreciation for people who live by their voice and manage to get a tickle or something caught in their throat when they most need to speak. At any rate, we're going to go into education, which we talk about frequently on this podcast because, as I've said multiple times before, if we really have any hope of turning this thing around without a fight, it's going to have to be done in education and culture, and really in the home before either of those. But those two primary categories, and even if we end up in a fight, folks, if we have any hope of really turning this thing around and turning it back to God and our founding faith and principles based on Christ's teachings, it's going to have to be in culture and education. And this is going to be coming from America's God and Country. Again, great resource, folks. Can't recommend it enough. Just like the Patriots Bible, there come the puppy dogs. If you don't have a copy of that for your family, I would strongly recommend it. This will be entertaining to those of y'all that know much of anything about modern education. This is the Dallas High Schools, September 1946. They published a Bible study course, a New Testament bulletin number 170. It was authorized by the Board of Education April the 23rd, 1946, and printed in the Dallas Public Schools print shop, Dallas, Texas. Forward. The Dallas Public Schools allowed 1/2 credit toward high school graduation for the successful completion of a general survey course in the Bible, given in the churches and Sunday schools of the city. In 1939, it was decided to provide separate courses in the Old and New Testaments, each course carrying 1/2 unit of credit toward high school graduation. E.B. Comstock, Assistant Superintendent in charge of high schools. Introduction, regulations governing New Testament study course. Let me go back here for just a second, folks. First off, if you know anything about modern public education, if this were attempted in Dallas public schools today, there would be a huge outcry against it. And that goes back to the completely immoral and erroneous decision by the Supreme Court, multiple decisions, but one being separation of church and state, which we just did a couple podcasts on from Jefferson's letter, which was taken completely out of context and twisted and molded, as Jefferson himself ironically feared, by the judiciary, by the Supreme Court. And this is just more fallout over the last 80 years, give or take. And notice here, folks, that this didn't offer the same credit to Jewish synagogues or Muslim mosques or satanic temples or atheist Mother Nature temples, whatever you want to put in here. This was specifically just for Christian churches and study of the Bible. Because, folks, the First Amendment was never intended to raise other religions or atheism on par with Christianity. First Amendment was specifically created to prevent favoritism of one Christian denomination over another. But Christianity was, without doubt, and purposefully raised by our founders above other religions because they believed that God the Father of Jesus Christ, that Christianity was the foundation for our nation. So there's a reason that this was not offered to other religions, and that it shouldn't be today. And that's not cruel. That's not anything else that the left tries to use today. It was done purposefully because we were born, as President Wilson said, and as President Truman said in his letter to Pope Pius, we are a Christian nation. And if we don't have a people that follow the teachings of Christ, not the teachings of Muhammad or Allah or anybody else, then our republic ceases to exist. All right, so introduction, regulations governing New Testament study course. 1, classes may be organized by any Sunday school or church or any other religious organization for the purpose of studying the Bible in their respective organizations with a view of obtaining half school credit or high school credit. Successful completion of the course gives 1/2 unit credit toward high school graduation. 2, an application blank giving necessary information about the class must be filled out and filed with the assistant superintendent in charge of Dallas high schools. 3, there must be a minimum of 40 class periods of 90 minutes net teaching time, or 60 60-minute periods net time, or 80 45-minute periods net time. In no case will fewer than 40 different class sessions be accepted. 4, the text used is the New Testament study course, a syllabus published by the authority of the Dallas Board of Education for the use in Bible study credit classes. And there's a few others here that I don't have numbers requirement. Interesting Bible study credit classes, because there were multiple different classes, as you'll see in just a minute. Minimum requirements for the New Testament course. This is not the Old Testament course that I'm reading about today, just the New Testament course. The course is itself a, quote, minimum course, end quote, since teachers are expected to supplement rather than subtract from the topics included. The following summary requirements are listed for the purpose of emphasis and review. This is a huge point here, folks. This was supposed to be a minimum course because teachers in the Dallas school system were expected to teach about the Bible. This was supposed to supplement their teaching, not be the only teaching. So not only is there a course offered here for credit, but teachers within the school system were expected to teach about the Bible on their own in their other daily courses. We've gone so far afield, folks. We're not even close to on target anymore. And it's dismantling our communities, more importantly, our marriages, our families, our individual students, because we don't have truth. We don't have the Bible at the center of our education anymore, as it was for multiple, well, I guess, a century and a half plus. And we can't survive like that because that's what our country was founded on. So we take that foundation away. There's no more country. It's mind-boggling. Appendix required memory verses for review purposes. Pupils should be able to reproduce from memory each of the following quotations when given the accompanying lead, the book, chapter, and verse references. Lesson 1, number 1, the pre-existence of Christ. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John 1, verses 1, 3, and 14. Lesson number 2, Jesus to the devil in the wilderness. It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. It is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Matthew 4, verses 4, 7, and 10. Lesson 3, the purpose of Christ's coming. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:16. Lesson 4, all the way to lesson 95. If I'm reading that right, my Roman numerals are a little rusty. For those of y'all whose Roman numerals are not so rusty, y'all can comment and tell me what XLV is. Maybe it's 45. I don't know. At any rate, folks, that is, if you know anything about public education, a far cry from where we are today. And if you don't know anything about public education, folks, I would strongly suggest that you find a teacher or administrator that you trust and view as someone who is upright and talk to them and figure out what's going on. The point is we're a long way from the nation our founders envisioned and tried to create. And we have taken their intention and twisted it to mean something it never did. And the farther and farther we go away from God, as a quote from Jefferson that we recently used on this podcast, said that if we violate those liberties, those God-given liberties, which we are in a number of ways, go against his commands. You can talk about abortion here. You can talk about LGBTQ relationships. You can talk about illegal immigration. You can talk about theft via redistribution of wealth, socialism, communism. You can talk about a number, the bigotry of CRT, critical race theory, and identity politics. You can talk about feminism, talk about a number of different topics, folks. The point is, as Jefferson noted, that when we go against God, there's a price to pay because he is a just God. And as Jefferson said, I tremble because I know that his justice will not sleep forever, cannot sleep forever. And so we risk that, folks. We are risking that. We have been. And the farther and farther away we go from God, and the more and more we embrace those just blatantly evil values of the godless left, represented throughout the country in so many different ways, the more we risk losing our nation. I mean, we're in the process of it right now. We have to, one thing you hear so much since COVID hit, so many people say, I just want to get back to normal. Normal, normal. We talk about this often. I'm going to talk about it again because, as I say so frequently, muscle memory that I was taught in the Marine Corps applies to academics as well and knowledge of our country. And that's a great point here, folks. I was talking to a gentleman recently that made the comment that he would be hard pressed to identify and outline the Bill of Rights. And I said, I really would be too. And we were talking about our knowledge of Constitution and the Declaration and how little we really knew or could recite on command. When we don't know, folks, it's just like any other skill. When you don't use it, whether it's a sport or whether it's shooting, whether it's whatever it is that you do, if you don't use that skill frequently, language, you can make the same consideration for a number of things, you lose it. If we don't know where we came from and know what was intended about this country and how it was created, we're going to lose it. That's what we've been doing for the last 75 to 80 years. And that's what we're doing right now. That's why our country's in the state that it's in, because we have no idea where we came from. We have no idea. You really want to step on some toes here, folks. We don't know. The vast majority across the country have no idea anymore what it really means to be an American. Have no idea what a healthy, functioning marriage is supposed to look like. Have no idea what the relationship between parents and children from a godly Christian point of view, which is what our country was founded on, is supposed to look like. We don't even know anymore, so how can we practice it? We can't. Well, where did we get this? So many people today like to hate on public education. And you may think, listen to this podcast, if you don't pay attention to what I'm actually saying, that I would fall into that category. Public education is a phenomenal institution, folks. Our founders knew that we needed an educated population, had to have it. Well, we've started to dumb down academics and taken away knowledge that our children really need to be functional citizens, to be a strength rather than a weakness for our nation. And so we've done the exact opposite. The problem is not educating children publicly. The problem is when we take away values, the Bible and God's commands that strengthen our nation, and we replace them with the state and immoral values that weaken individuals and our nation. And that's what we've done. If we're ever going to right this thing, folks, we're going to have to make radical change. There is no going back to normal. That's how I started this whole, I got lost in the weeds. There is no going back to normal. You go ahead and get that through your head, get it over with. There is no going back to normal. We can either continue down this dark and ever darkening path toward a godless nation of the type of Nazi Germany, Stalinist Russia, or Maoist China, or we can turn it around with or without a fight. With a fight seems more and more likely every single passing day, and get back to God and our founding principles in our own lives personally and in the lives of our marriages, our relationships with our spouse, our relationships with our kids, our relationships within our communities. Those are the choices. But normal, quote unquote normal, that's not one of them. Normal's what got us here. All right, folks, I'll leave y'all be. I appreciate y'all giving me some time. I appreciate your feedback and comments, your support and encouragement. It means a huge amount. And as Patrick Henry said, I'm starting to end on this more often. I really probably should. Whatever your position is in life right now, you have influence. And whatever your sphere of influence is, as Henry referred to, he said, remind people that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. When we do the right thing, when we show other people truth, God, those teachings of Christ, we strengthen our nation. When we do the opposite, we weaken it. Wherever you are, you have that ability. Teacher, CEO, plumber, carpenter, oil rig worker, stay-at-home mom with no kids, 1 kid, 5 kids, cashier, attorney, whatever it is that you do, anything, you have a sphere of influence. Use it. Show other people, light that one candle, and it'll push back the darkness a little bit. God bless y'all. God bless your families. God bless America. We'll talk to y'all again real soon. Looking forward to it.